Thank you very much, Speaker, Honorable Speaker, Executive Mayor, fellow councillors, and the people of this great city of Johannesburg. Let me start by making an important observation on leadership. When the leader of an organization espouses negative energy, such negative energy tends to permeate throughout the organization. If only this were a spaza shop, a corner shop, or maybe even a hair salon, the problem here would not have been serious. But in this regard, we're dealing with South Africa's and Africa's preeminent city, the city of Johannesburg. And as we deal with the city of Johannesburg, there is a significant injustice when its leader chooses to eschew the truth. For when you eschew the truth, you are depriving the people of this city the opportunity to know the real state of their city. Mr. Mayor, allow me to reflect on some of the truth that you choose to eschew in your state of the city of Johannesburg. When we arrived in the city of Johannesburg, not only did we inherit a divided city that had multiple municipalities, we inherited an institution that was in financial ruin. We talk here today of a city that can stand proudly and say that financially we're an extremely stable organization. It is by just Mr. Mayor, allow me to reflect on the reality that in fact in your hostile relationship with the truth, in certain instances, I would be convinced that there would have been a doctor that should have diagnosed some serious allergic reaction when it comes to the truth. But allow me to reintroduce you to this small matter called the truth. Whilst you correctly identify the need for massive infrastructure investment in the city of Johannesburg that you state at an estimated 170 billion rands, what you choose not to say in your diatribe that you presented to this council, that in fact, this is the city that was the pioneer in post-apartheid South Africa of the municipal bond market. And in fact, this is the city that was the first in the world to list a green bond celebrated internationally. This is the city. As you choose to have a hostile relationship with the truth, you choose not to say to the people of Johannesburg that in fact this is the city that when you look at subnational government in the country was investing the most in capital infrastructure investments in this country of South Africa. For in fact, this is the city that between 2011 and the end of the last term of office was able to move its capital budget from 3.7 billion rands to an average 10 billion rands per annum, more than any other city in this country. Mr. Mayor, when the world met in Quito, Ecuador last year, at the Habitat 3 conference, it adopted the new urban agenda. As part of the adoption of this new urban agenda, the world celebrated the right to the city and included it in the paradigm adopted under the auspices of the new urban agenda. A paradigm we had presented to the people of Johannesburg a few years ago as a critical paradigm to city development and city strategy. But what you might not know, because maybe Councillor Ngobeni might not have told you, I suspect you would have told that in fact, the spatial development framework of the city of Johannesburg was celebrated by none other than the UN Habitat, the United Nations preeminent body on city development and success. But what you might not know is that underlying this spatial transformation initiative and the spatial development framework of the city of Johannesburg are the tools that we should use to implement this. And part of the tools that we talk about are tax incremental financing schemes that would enable us to ensure that not only do we leverage from that additional revenue from the private sector, but that those in the private sector that benefit the most from public infrastructure investments are able to reinvest that money in the city. Those are the tools that have been identified as pioneering tools in the city of Johannesburg. But it is a truth you forget or at least choose to omit. Some of the truth you choose to omit is that in fact part of the spatial development framework is the Corridors of Freedom Initiative, celebrated the world over. It is this Corridors of Freedom Initiative that in fact the Global Environment Facility donated to the city of Johannesburg in excess of 100 million rands to ensure that we're able to implement spatial transformation and ensure that these people you say are forgotten are able to live closer to where the opportunities are in the city. That is a truth you choose to omit because you have a hostile relationship with this truth. The BRT system in the city of Johannesburg is the first bus rapid transit system to be implemented in this city. But not only the first to be implemented, it is the first that goes directly into a historically disadvantaged township owned by the taxi industry of the people of the city. That is true transformation. But that is a truth you choose to omit because it is an uncomfortable truth to tell the people of Johannesburg. It is unfortunate that you choose not to tell the people of Johannesburg that in line with our global commitments to climate change and sustainability, that this city initiated the Green Fleet initiative of the city of Johannesburg. That at Metrobus we introduced a dual fuel system as part of our transition to biogas, which biogas was intended to ensure that we're able to generate our own energy in the city of Johannesburg by the people of Johannesburg, but it is an uncomfortable truth to share with the people of the city. You are unable to say to the people of Johannesburg that in fact this is the city that was able to initiate a program of a fleet that will be propelled by electric cars. Maybe you do not see them. They are white cars with a bit of green, and they are looking for that's the fleet in the city of Johannesburg. Mr. Mayor, I have no doubt in my mind that corruption requires the attention of all the leaders in both the public and the private sector. And indeed, it is corruption that must also be dealt with members of the legal fraternity. It is corruption that we must confront, but the untruth that you present to this council is in fact that corruption was not dealt with in the past. You would almost be convinced as you speak that the first person to be arrested was arrested post-August 2016. But it is not only that fact that you eschew this truth that worries me. What worries me more, you can look up to get your answers, it's okay. What worries me more is, in fact, how you're dealing with this matter. For you not telling the people of Johannesburg that with television in tow, you went to the police station to open a case that was already opened. To then say, this is a case I want to open it, but it's already open. And you know what happens when you are advised? True to apprentice style, the people that advise you, you say, you are fired on the spot. It is unfortunate, Mr. Mayor, that you think that is how to run a city like Johannesburg. For in fact, your uncomfortable relationship with the truth forces you to fire your own MMC who says to you, and I'm sitting with 3 reports that have done the investigation that you want to And when they say so, you say, true apprentice style, you are fired. This is not Apprentice, this is not a television show. Or one opinion, this is not the story. This is real life, this is a real, just by story. So you can't relate to the city. You have to relate to the city within the context that this, in fact, is the preeminent city on the African continent, celebrated the world over. You can't deal with it like a spaza shop or indeed a hair salon. It is not. As I said, what worries me more is that in fact you are uncomfortable to even ask members of your own caucus when you are dealing with the matter of broadband as to whether these reports served before this council. Maybe it would be uncomfortable to say it in your caucus, because if they respond, they might just get the usual, you are fired response. But it must be something that, in fact, the former councillor that sits in your office should have been able to tell you, Mr. Data Deployment. I'm sure this former councillor will have said to you that serving before this council were several reports that said that the contractor that was appointed to implement the broadband initiative had repudiated the contract, and this council chooses to cancel that contract. What do you choose to do? Instead of looking back to the reports of this city that say this contractor has repudiated the contract, the city has taken the necessary penalties, withdrawn the contract, and ensured that we implement an alternative initiative. You choose to go and investigate a report that in fact has served before this council. Maybe because you could not ask the MMC for finance next to you, but you should have asked your cadre sitting in your office, who is a member that was serving in this council, as to whether did this report serve before council. For in fact, when you go to the people of Johannesburg and you scream 10 billion rands, and you are talking about investigations that were already done, or contracts that were repudiated by this council, you are creating alarm to the people of this city on the basis of reports that served before this council. And this only so that you can say to the people of Johannesburg, the ANC is everything wrong that you can imagine. I should say to you, Mr. Mayor, that what concerns me more is not only that, in fact, you are hostile to the African National Congress. It is the fact that, in fact, you treat the ANC with hostility, disdain, if not pure hate. And that concerns me very much, for that sort of attitude permeates not only the city, but permeates society. And it is that sort of attitude that is anti-democracy in itself. For in fact, you do not deal with your opponents in that way. You deal with your opponents in a manner that respects the fact that they were elected public representatives. Let me tell you how we conducted ourselves as an absolute majority, not even being in coalition government. The Speaker of this Council, as leader of the Democratic Alliance, will share with you, as will, in fact, Mr. Ngamani, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, as will Mr. Moriarty, in fact, as will Councillor Penny, as leaders of this council, as will Councillor Mendelson, that on critical issues, when these matters concern this council, we would take it upon ourselves to consult amongst each other. We would stand up and say, leader of the DA, there is this critical matter. We're not going to abuse our majority on this matter. This is about the people of the city of Johannesburg. But when you sit here without the ability to even have a degree of magnanimity in the hollow victory that you receive, you continue to treat us as if we are your enemy. We are not the enemy. We are your opponents, we are your political opponents. We disagree ideologically, and no doubt I disagree with you ideologically. For I can tell you that the direction in which you take in this city is not a direction of inclusivity, it's not a direction of transformation, it's not a direction of ensuring that we're able to build a new urbanism in Johannesburg. It is a direction of division, of exclusion, of hostility. It is a direction we cannot celebrate in the city of Johannesburg. I beg of you, Mr. Mayor, stand up and be the leader of the city of Johannesburg, not the leader only of the DA or only of the 39% of the people that voted for the Democratic Alliance. Recognize the 44% of the people that voted the African National Congress into these chambers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillors. Councillor